Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. I am Matthew Miller. I am the Fedora project leader, and this is our Fedora Council meeting for today. The Fedora Council is the top-level leadership body for Fedora, and we have a meeting every week. Usually these are in IRC, the text-based meetings. We kind of rotate between an open floor meeting where people bring topics, a meeting where we do reports from the different objectives, and a meeting where we go through our ticket queue and make sure that hasn't piled up. And then we have this meeting, which traditionally we've done a report from some random part of the project that we had some interest in, and we wanted somebody to come and talk about it and tell us what they needed and what we could do for them and that kind of thing, which is fine. But we decided at the face-to-face meeting we had as a council last month, this was only last month, it feels like a long time ago now, last year, that we would do it a little differently and have reports from our engineering leads and our Mindshare leads, and as well as the diversity and inclusion lead, and kind of have those people represent that they're part of the project and kind of show what's going on in those areas, kind of including all the sub-projects that are underneath them. And so this is the first meeting where we're doing this. So Petr is going to represent engineering, and Sumantro is the Mindshare lead, and Jona is our diversity and inclusion advisor. So each of them has a few slides, and we are going to hear those slides, and then we'll ask questions, and we'll see how this goes. So with that, I'll turn it over to Petr.
Okay, I will try sharing and what you just suggested. So let's see. Okay, hopefully you should see my screen now.
I see you.
That's funny.
I see your screen, so at least it's working there.
There's a screen.
Okay, so can you see the presentation mode or the other one?
Oh, there it is.
The other one.
Okay, so it's probably not going to work like that, so I will keep it like this. So as Matthew mentioned, today we have three topics. That's engineering report, the Mindshare report, and the diversity and inclusion report. So let's start with the first one, and it's going to be rather short, as this is the first report in a while, and definitely the first of mine. So the general overview of the engineering part of Fedora is that we are focusing on Fedora 30. Fedora 30 changes are still coming in. The system-wide system-wide change submission deadline was yesterday, so we 15 system-wide accepted changes and 13 self-contained changes so far. The deadline for the self-contained changes is January 29th. So if you want to get your
Is anyone else seeing slides? Because I sadly am not.
I see slides, but it's also saying that you're having connectivity issues.
Should I try again?
I can see it.
Well, now it seems that issue went away. Okay, so something is wrong with your connectivity.
Oh, I will try resharing.
I think his slides are fine. I think his connectivity is fine. Whoever was talking, I couldn't actually hear enough of the voice to figure out who it was. And I just clicked on Contique's name and I saw the slides.
Tried sharing again. Did it get better?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I will just continue. So we have those 13 self-contained changes accepted so far, and the deadline for submissions is January 29th. So there still might be more. The changes are generally focused on, as usually, language stack updates, glibc updates, as well as some packaging cleanups, mostly scriptlets and macros. Generally, everything is awesome, I would say, more or less. If we ignore some issues that we have in the infrastructure. Which brings me to the next topic, and that is the Subproject highlights, which would
Were
be
any of the
today.
changes particularly interesting or controversial?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay. I felt like my UUID change got a little bit of controversy.
That was the one I was going to mention.
We can talk about that next. Let's go to your next slide.
Yeah, you are definitely right. Yeah, that one I didn't actually see until yesterday. So yeah, today's topic is the Fedora infrastructure. And this is something that we discussed at the Council Hackfest in December last year, as Matthew. And the goal here is to actually collect all gather a list of all services that we run in Fedora. This is ranging from websites to the build system to badges, mostly badges, and see how much effort it actually takes to run them ourselves, and see whether there are some alternatives we could switch to, or let other people run them for us. This is not actually making any decisions whether the services should be moved away from the infrastructure. This is just understanding where we are and knowing our current situation. So after Matthew published his the Hackfest notes on Friday, I brought this up with Fesco on Monday, and the next step will be brainstorming how we actually can approach this, how we go through everything that we have and where we can get. There's still some open questions regarding modularity, which is what I wanted to highlight. This is not really moving forward, and that is the Ursa Major, which is a system that puts modules in the build for regular packages. This is blocking both modules in Fedora, since you cannot modularize anything that is a build dependency of non-modularized content, as well as Apple 8. Which SREL 8 actually uses modules, and Ursa Major is also part of that. If we want to make the AppStream RHEL 8 repo available for Apple 8, this needs to be deployed. Currently, there's not much else to add to this topic, so let's try the questions now. You mentioned the UUID change. Yes, that is definitely controversial. What would you like to cover?
Yeah, I could just mention that was a change basically to add a unique identifier to DNF updates so we can count them the same way OpenSUSE does. There was some pretty good discussion on that, and a really good suggestion from Leonard Pottering about an alternate way to get the counting that I want without actually using a UUID. So I think I'm going to actually resubmit that proposal with that idea. I know the DNF team was talking about it this morning. I was unfortunately unable to make that meeting with them, so I'm not sure how that came out, but that's on my list to follow up with today. I guess the other thing about the infrastructure stuff to move, there's Kevin Fenzi, who's one of the Fedora infrastructure sysadmins and Fesco person forever, had some skepticism about about the amount of work it would take to migrate things that aren't actually taking work right now. They're just kind of sitting there. It seems like the things that are easiest to migrate would actually be are the things that take less work sitting where they are, and the things that could be migrated. He was skeptical about the return on that. And do you have any thoughts on that? Is there?
I think it would be too early to make any decisions before we actually have any data. So I think really the first step needs to be gathering all the services that we run and the details on each of them. So just dismissing any potential move before we actually get any data in one place, and I think that would be too early.
I guess that makes sense. One suggestion I had as we are gathering data on these different services, we're going to have this Taiga instance set up. That's TAIGA. It's a kind of a project tracking system. We decided as part of the council meeting that we want to have every team in Fedora have a presence there on this. Basically, that there'll be a teams.fedoraproject.org/council where we'll have stuff about the Fedora Council. One idea is to make every official service and app we run also have a page like that, so we can kind of get have a central place to list all of the things that exist. I don't know if that's the best idea, but that's a suggestion.
Actually, I think that's a pretty good one, because that also gives a central point for people to report issues specific to services. Right now, it's actually kind of hard to figure out where you're supposed to ask about, oh, there's an issue with X service or Y instance or whatever. And it's just like, you have to jump around until you find somebody who knows something, who will then just go ahead and deal with it anyway, even though it may not necessarily be the right place to put it. If we have a central location for those kinds of things, and Taiga does issue tracking and planning and milestones and all that stuff, that would be actually really helpful for people to be able to coordinate and figure out, you know, how to evolve our services, as well as keeping the lights on.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, the idea is, even if somebody, like, if they really hate the Taiga tracking and like, I'm going to use, you know, whatever tracking system I wrote myself, or I'm going to use GitHub for tracking or whatever, we'd at least have in the Taiga thing, you could make a thing that says, we're not using this, but here's a link to the thing we're actually using. So you at least have an index that would tell you where to go. Ideally, we get everybody all actually using the same thing in the same place, but my hopes are low for that because of this being Fedora.
Well, would this also be something like where all the SIGs and working groups would also put themselves in there?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's the thing that we actually want to basically make mandatory. If you're an official SIG or working group, your officialness is defined by, do you have one of these things?
Well, that's a good thing, because that makes it easier for you to figure out whether or not people are doing anything there.
Yeah, and one of the things like this, over having like a wiki list of SIGs, it actually has a dashboard of activity, so you can look at it and you see, oh, okay, this is, you know, there's things happening here. And I talked to the Taiga people, and there's actually an API that makes it easy to inject events into their stream, so we could hook it up to Fed message. There's a lot of interesting potential there.
And at least on the Pagure side, we're also looking at making it possible for, if you're using Pagure as your issue tracking system, synchronizing issues and events happening between Taiga and Pagure directly. So that was also useful for groups that are already using Pagure for issue tracking.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Any more comments?
I still can't see the slides, so I'm done.
Yeah, your connectivity is basically like, it says you're always having issues and your viewport is grayed out, so it's not updating anymore.
We don't need Matthew anyway.
Okay, but somebody else needs questions then.
You can go into Mindshare. Sumantro, would you like me to continue sharing, or would you like to do it on your own?
Let me try once, see if that works. Okay. I'm not being able to share either.
Try now. Try now.
Wait. There's something wrong.
I can share for you then. I can share for you then.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot. Should I start?
Yes, you can. At least
Yeah, please,
it appears the time to share. It appears the time to share.
Hello?
At least not for me, though. At least not for me, though.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So my name is Sumantro, and I'll be talking about Mindshare updates. So first on the points, so we have a lot of very small activities happening which are governed by Mindshare. So to start with, we have something called Join Fedora, and we have the classroom activities which happen in Join Fedora. So we had kind of like 9 activities up till now, and 6 more are supposed to happen thanks to Ankur, and like we would be proceeding with a couple more activities. Moving on, we kept on having release parties for 29. So we had around 7 release parties, and they were practically awesome. So that's one of the major things that we covered while we changed from the regular release parties where the regions had budgets, and now to a more centralized module where Mindshare allocates the budget for every release party, and we move on with that. Then we have something that is very important, and we were supposed to do it for some time now. So I wrote down a release party, which would basically be modified by the Mindshare members a bit, and then be hosted on docs.fedoraproject.org, which would be a one-step solution, much like the advocate program out there. So it will be a one-stop solution for all the contributors to go ahead and host their release parties and tell us about awesomeness they have been doing. Moving on, we have we keep on having the ongoing advocates program. So while last council meeting we discussed about what are the new scopes that we can cater to while in terms of creating more advocates and having more outreach. So we have a heading now. We are proceeding with it. One of the success metrics that has come out since then is we had a guy called Anuj who recently became an advocate. He did a release party in his college, and then he got into the advocate program, and since then he has been contributing to Google Brain, and he is one of the top contributors. He put out a lot of IoT tasks which helped a lot of people to get in Fedora IoT and use Fedora as a base operating system to run Arduino, Raspberry Pis, and BeagleBone programs. And that's one good thing that we have got from the advocate program. We have one person we are testing it out on. We will be scaling out to a lot more. In terms of mentored project, we have GCI, GSOC, and Google Season of Docs. So this year, GCI Fedora participated in GCI, and thanks to Bex for helping us out on a lot of things. So we had this place where where there were like 6 mentors, including 2 org admins who kind of mentored 125 participants, and to complete a couple of small size tasks, and the top 5 of them completed 110 tasks, which is a big deal. I wrote a report on that in the morning. It's on community blog right now, so you guys can go ahead and have a look. Then we have something. We have a new program.
Communityblog.fedoraproject.org. If you are not familiar with that.
Yes. If you are not familiar with that. And then we have something. Then we have a new program which Google is launching very soon, which is called Google Season of Docs. So much like the GSOC, where people kind of go ahead and code a bit of the project, Google figured out that most of this people who do Google Summer of Code kind of do not want to write documentation or refrain from writing documentation. So there is a parallel program which is going to run where people are going to help the developers write the docs, and that's going to be a very helpful thing in terms of how the program proceeds. Right now, the only schedule that I know of is we are launching on Google is launching this program this year from mid of April, and then that's going to continue until late August or late September. That's what the timeline looks like. I am positively sure that we will have projects for GSOC, and then we will have a couple of people, couple of technical writers help us out writing documents for like either the documentation that we are missing right now, and also for the projects that are being worked on. So that's my go-to thing for GSOD this time.
Cool.
Yep.
So
questions?
Yeah. So for the Google season doc thing.
Yep.
We were just talking yesterday. in the Petr meeting.
There's so much echo. I can't understand what's going on.
Who's echoing? Because it's feet. Huh? Oh, it's gone now. Cool. Am I saying anything, or is it just not working?
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, so the Google's season of docs thing, like yesterday we were talking the Pagure stakeholders meeting that we were trying to find a way to have people like come and help us figure out, structure the documentation better, fill it out and stuff like that. So at the very least, from the Pagure project point of view, we'd be interested in participating in that if Fedora decides to be part of that.
That
Awesome.
sounds good to me. That sounds good to me.
Yep, me too. So that would be really, really helpful for us. So we can go ahead and participate in the program, and the more we participate, the more contributors we get anyhow for every spectrum of the project, that is. So moving on, we have something. We have the regular GSOC, and here's one thing. GSOC has already started. So by the Google timeline, it's Feb 6th is the last date for submission of the projects. And I don't know if we have selected the projects or gathered the ideas somewhere. So I would probably go ahead, write down a blog for a community blog in like coming 1 or 2 days, making sure that the mentors get a chance to pitch in their ideas and write them somewhere. And then people can start contributing to those projects and to continue with the GSOC bit. Having said that, we are going to move into something like design and badges that again falls under us. So the only thing that I would like to add over here is we are stuck on thing in badges, and which is we were trying to create this badge for emeritus ambassadors, and the badge requires a rule file to be allocated, and Miro pointed it out that we are missing a rule file. So I would like to work on that in next couple of weeks and help them like get the badge done, and then write a documentation correspondingly, and then allocate badges if people do not show up, and reply to our emails that we would be sending saying if they are willing to be ambassadors or they're just simply not going to ambassadors. So that's one thing that we would have to look at. Covering another thing, we have something that we need to talk about, and which is the magazine and the community blog. So I'd like to thank the entire magazine team, because we finally reached 3.5 million page views for 2018, and that's a lot of 500,000. That's a lot of page views. Yeah, and that's like a 500,000 improvement over 2017, and we averaged 9,000-ish, 10,000-ish page views per day, and that's a big milestone for us. And I would like to thank everyone who worked, and all the writers and everyone who worked with the magazine team to bring that to a success point. Moving on, we have translations, and in translations, we are still trying to figure out somehow we can reactivate Zanata, and I would like to work with Bex on that to see how much we can do in terms of motivating the people to contribute translations again. I would also like to talk to Jona on that and see, since she is a translator, I'd like to see if we can do more sprints, translation sprints in some way to help that area somehow. So that's that, and that's for the overview. The sub-project highlights would be GCI. So in GCI, we had a ton of participation. So I mean, this is the second time we are doing it. We're very nervous about it. I I myself was a bit scared of how it would turn out, but it turned out really well. So we had around we had a very so GCI is a program. So most of you, if you don't know, it's a program catered to 13 to 17-year-old people. I mean students, and this is their first step to open source. So we wanted to make them feel that they are taking the right step when they are contributing to Fedora or finishing a task with our organization. And we did a good job because all the people who participated and all the people who became finalists, they actually shared their reviews with me, and they wrote very good reviews about us, saying we are friendly enough to help them, and I would like that momentum to go on. And having said that, there are a couple of thoughts, and one of them being we probably would require some more help out from infra to kind of help us out next year with some kind of tasks which are like more suitable for, like those are bite-sized tasks and should be suitable for kids to do, because these kids were capable enough of writing Ansible playbooks and automating tasks. So I think if we can help them out to contribute to infra, that would be a good deal, because most of these students are actually going to contribute to GSOC next year, and we would try to bring them and rather loop them to GSOC program and see if they can add more value to us. So that's one thing. Since the advocate program has happened, we kind of kept having approvals for budget on the Mindshare repo, and each week the Mindshare sits down and votes on the tickets, and we are never late. We are literally never late on the approval bit. So we have a bunch of 19 approvals done in last 3 months or 4 months, and it's a good number, because we either have rejected or we have said yes, go ahead, do it, and we have not been poked around by people saying, hey, can we have a response to this for a long amount of time. So we kind of did a good job over there. So I would like to thank the entire Mindshare to facilitate that kind of a spirit and move on. So we would like to move with the questions, and if we have any.
Cool. Yeah, that's being able to go through the tickets quickly. That is nice, because it's disheartening to make a request and then nobody responds to it for a long time. Has the Mindshare committee talked about the council's $250 proposal projects a week challenge, or the $150 initiatives a year?
$150 a year. Yes. So the council is that was my closing note. So we are supposed to have a detailed expenditure process of how we are gonna use $150, rather $300 per week, and I'm expected to have that done by next month this time. So that's the best. So if people are traveling for DevConf, it would be hard for this month, but yeah, I can I'm sure I'll be getting it.
Yeah, that's fair. And the fiscal year starts in March, so that's when we want to kick this off. So that's when we want to kick this off.
Yeah, it will be done before March. So yeah.
Sumantro, if you can aggressively mute, we won't get as much echo feedback, we think.
Yes, now it's muted. Anybody else have any other questions?
Guess not.
All right, should we move on to Jona? Jona, are you on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry for being late. So, Petr, can you continue sharing? Because I have some problems with sharing my screen.
And I still do not see the slides, so if you could read them, that would be awesome.
Sorry, I didn't hear. It was like kind of disconnected.
I am not seeing the slides, so if you can read the slides, that would be great.
Okay. Okay, so general overview of
Seems like Jona is speaking,
that,
but we cannot hear anything. Am I the only one?
I can hear.
I can hear as well.
So I hope that everyone can hear me.
I can hear you just fine. Fine.
But if Content can't hear you, then that means he can't share your slides. But whatever.
So I will continue. I hope that at least you can hear all the things that I will say. So just an overview of the things that Fedora Diversity and Inclusion team has done. So as every year, we did the Fedora Women's Day. And for this year, we did 10 different events in 7 countries. Something new compared to other years, we had an event from a hackerspace in Italy. So we tried like to engage a bit more with hackerspaces since they have their own contributors there. And we had another event in US from one of the Google Summer of Code students, which is great, like to see the students that they still keep up with the community and they still contribute. And other ones, like mostly they were like around Europe. We will continue still doing that next year, but mostly like we will see what new things we can bring or what will be the focus and so on. Another thing is code of conduct. Here I can just say like thank you to Bex since he has put a lot of efforts there and he has worked a lot on that. Now for the moment is pending, but hopefully like we can review it soon. We had as a team our presence at Flock. Mostly it was like focused on the imposter syndrome workshop and unconscious bias training. This was like kind of new for all of us, but it was the first time that we did it, and I think it was very beneficial for the people that attended. Even that not a lot of people attended, but we hope like next year like to promote it better or to try to do it in another timing. Another thing, it was the Google Summer of Code and Outreach overview session. This was mostly like to connect the mentors with each other so they could like share the feedback they had with each other, but also with the audience. So maybe like they could, with their feedback, they could attract more mentors to get involved and for the next year rounds. And also for the participants, the students. It was great like sharing and hearing the work that they did during the summer, and also like to get them with each other and also the community to like know the work that they did so they can get like let's say they can know better how the community works, or people they can meet them face to face. In this way, like this can be, let's say, something good to attract them more and to still being part of the community. We had again an outreach intern, but the problem from this is that lately we have it's a hard time to find mentors. So that's why we, as you know, during the meeting we had the idea to have the mentor summit. So hopefully I need to open a ticket about this. So these are the things that we did, but we have some other things that we have in progress that we are working on, deadlines. For the event guidelines is mostly to create event organization best practices as a guide for the Fedora events that we organize. Not only Flock, but also small ones, but mostly it's aimed at big events like Flock to have like more things related to diversity diversity and inclusion. We had even this year at Flock, we had the quiet room, and also it was the stickers with the colors. But also like are other things that we can improve next year. We are trying to get more involved with other diversity and inclusion activities, so we can get more experience, see what other communities are doing, and see what we can bring back in our community that fits our community as well. We try to collaborate more now with other teams inside Fedora, so we can see like how we can help other teams, for example, localization teams, since like it's very important to have Fedora localized, or let's say translated in a lot of languages, or with other teams that, for example, we can give some feedback regarding the way how they can get more contributors, or to make easier for contributors enter that specific team, like if there is any kind of barrier, like the discussion we had about IRC. We are trying to have also some Fedora classroom sessions from our team, not only like to get more contributors, like how they can get more involved with our team or how they can help us, but also classroom related to, for example, how they can speak in an event, especially when it comes to Flock, for example, or other ideas that we might have. Another pending thing is the demographic survey that is kind of blocked, and we cannot do something yet about this. And also another new idea that we had from Flock is having a speak a non-native language event, because sometimes people feel that they need a bit of time to speak their own language when they are at Flock. So this is mostly like an overview of the things that are done, are in progress, and yeah, that's all from the diversity and inclusion team.
Cool. Can you tell me more about the non-native language thing? Would that be like a track that's in people's native languages, or?
Yeah, it can be something, a track, or maybe something planned in evening. Like we had the games event. It can be something related to that, where people can be grouped in different groups. Let's say, talk with each other in their own language. Like, for example, Spanish people, they can have their own group, and other languages as well. But especially, we had this idea from the Spanish-speaking people. They felt like this would be nice for them to speak only for a few seconds with other people that they have the same language as their primary language.
That makes some sense. Kind of let your brain relax a little bit and just talk rather than thinking hard every time you talk. If you're not fluent in English.
Maybe it could also be some kind of lightning talks in their native language. So then they can also present something that they are more familiar in the language that they are more familiar with to train this.
Maybe with real-time translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea.
So I don't know if you have any other question.
Are there things we can do to unblock the demographic survey, or is that basically waiting on legal review and things that we don't have control over?
Actually, it's a product that we had from our Hackfest that we had, but it's pending on Bex and Marina, I guess. Some legal, I think, overview or something related to that.
Yeah, a lot of these.
That code of conduct has a bit more priority, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of this is kind of sensitive, so I understand why it's slow to get through. Okay, thank you very much for the update. Does anybody else have anything else? It sounds like no. It sounds like Jitsi didn't work very well for us this meeting. I am very disappointed. It's been doing very well. When we first started, it was a little bit sketchy, and then it got really solid for a while, and now it's, I don't know, we've got a lot of people on the call. Maybe it's not scaling so well, but it seems like it ought to. I don't know. Hopefully the next Jitsi will work better, and if it doesn't, we may need to look again on alternate solutions, which is unfortunate because it's nice. It's been nice, and the streaming is nice. But anyways, thank you, everybody. I will see you on the internet. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.